Chapter 6 Avalanche. Slughorn whipped the stony wall, watching small cracks slowly form with each strike. He still had his work cut out for him. This wall felt solid, and the new Zubat on their team said it would take another half hour before it would collapse, if he kept up his current pace. But Slughorn needed a rest. His vines ached from the strain. Panting, he squatted down in the tunnel to catch his breath and let his muscles recover. It was only Slughorn and Severus up here. Edison and those bugs were already safely out of Mount Moon. True to his word, Severus knew exactly how to pass through the caves, and did so completely avoiding the bad men who worked to defile the place. Once the wall began to cave in, there wouldn't be much time to get to safety. It was better to keep everyone else outside while Slughorn did his work. Severus hung upside down above him, listening without comment. Slughorn didn't know what to make of this new ally, but one thing was for certain, he was no ordinary Zubat. "I'm sorry," Slughorn said tentatively, unsure how to proceed. "About your sister and all." Severus shrugged. "She was just a Zubat. I don't suppose it makes much difference. She would have lived out the rest of her days in this blasted cave anyway, and eventually die here on her own. Zubat are an unambitious lot, content to flit about eating, sleeping, and going about their meaningless chatter." He sighed. "Still, I do miss her. I can't say as there is a thing remarkable about her, but she was my sister all the same." "It doesn't sound like you think very highly of your own breed," Slughorn commented. "Indeed," Severus agreed. "I have never felt at home among them. They care nothing for the wider world or for their own betterment. I was cursed with high intellect, and hence I have been an outcast my entire life." Slughorn didn't say anything. Honestly, he didn't know what to say. "I suppose that is why her death hit me so hard," said Severus. "It reminded me of how meaningless the life of a Zubat is. They swatted her away without a thought, as if she were naught but a slight nuisance. And really, were they wrong? Aren't we just an annoyance to wary travelers passing through these caves? So when she went down like that, I decided there was nothing left for me in Mount Moon. Nothing. I determined that I would leave, but first I had to make a stand against those who did this. I could very well die as well, but would it matter? I would leave this mountain one way or another. If I didn't march out victorious, then I would ascend to the realm of ghosts." Despite the soreness, Slughorn reached one of his vines up to Severus and patted him on the shoulder. "Your life isn't meaningless, Severus," he said. "You are the smartest Zubat I've ever met. In fact, you're the smartest of any Pokemon I've met. And you're part of our team now. We're not big or strong or all that good at teamwork, but we are your team now. And I, for one, am thrilled to have you with us." The Zubat just hung there silently. Slughorn didn't know how to read that face, so he awkwardly kept his vine around Severus's shoulder. "We'll adventure together," Slughorn said. "You'll travel across all Kanto, and maybe even further. It doesn't matter what these Zubat are like anymore. What matters is you, and us, and the team we have become." Slughorn didn't want to cry. Really, he didn't. But for the first time since Buckbeak's death, he felt real companionship with another Pokemon. Severus had lost, too, and he moved on relentlessly. They were alike, and Slughorn tried so hard but couldn't help it. A few rogue tears streaked down his face at the thought. Could Severus tell? Maybe his sonar vision wouldn't pick up on tears, but surely he could hear the sniffle in his voice. "We shall carry on together, brother," Severus said. He flew down from his perch and landed on Slughorn's bulb, hanging upside down along his side. "For those we lost, we shall live with twice the vigor." Slughorn nodded. In that moment, a tie was forged between the two Pokemon. Something deep and meaningful. Slughorn trusted Severus completely, which is something he didn't do lightly. Then, the moment was broken by a brilliant flash of light. "What's that?" Slughorn sharply turned to face the source. "Trouble," said Severus. "Oh dear, I should never have let my ears down. It appears we have been ambushed." The Zubat spoke the truth. Standing between them and the only exit was a man in all black. His shirt had a large red R on the chest, and his face was unfriendly. In front of him was a Rattata, whose emergence from the Pokeball caused the flash. They were stuck on the wrong side of a dead end. "Well, well, well," said the Rattata. It stepped closer in bold, confident strides. This was no wild rodent. This thing was trained, and trained well. The muscles along its legs and shoulders were tight and defined, built more like a miniature tiger than a lazy rat. "You're a bit out of your environment, aren't you, Ivysaur?" Slughorn shifted his posture into a battle stance. It occurred to him how isolated they were here. No Edison, no backup Pokemon, nothing. Just the two of them versus this bad man and his Pokemon. "And I can't help but wonder, what are the two of you doing with that wall?" the Rattata continued. "Looks to me like you're up to something. Team Rocket already has plans for this cave. There ain't room for two schemes in one mountain, is there?" "And what are you doing here anyway?" Slughorn asked. "You're ruining this cave for the Pokemon that live here. What's so important about it?" The Rattata got closer still. "The boss said there could be fossils of rare and valuable Pokemon here. And you know what they say, where there's a prophet, there's a rocket. Speaking of which, Ivysaur isn't exactly common either." The Rattata smirked. "Maybe we should grab you while we're here." Everything happened so fast after that. In the blink of an eye, the Rattata was on Slughorn, bashing his head into Slughorn's side. It knocked him off his feet and fumbled to the ground. Battle instinct took over, and Slughorn responded with a vine whip. The vines cracked through the air, but Rattata was fast. He dodged each blow and was on Slughorn again within seconds, biting and gnawing at his skin. The trainer in black rushed forward with a net in his hands, and before Slughorn could grasp the unfairness of it, he was stuck in the net like a pathetic Magikarp. "You can't do this!" Slughorn struggled. "This isn't fair! I have a trainer!" The Rattata laughed. "Oh, don't worry, little Ivysaur. After a few hard weeks of training, you'll forget all about that trainer of yours. We'll beat the memory right out of you." And he trotted back to the Team Rocket man, cackling the whole way. "Oh, I don't think so." All heads turned back up the tunnel. Severus, that crafty Zubat, was flapping in front of the cracked wall. Slughorn lost track of him when the battle begun. He must have snuck away unnoticed, just another Zubat below anyone's attention. "Not another Zubat," the Rattata groaned. "This is really getting old." "Not to worry," Severus assured him. "You won't have to deal with us pesky Zubat for much longer." Although he had no eyes, his mouth curled into a grin. "Although you might make some new friends among the Geodude." The Rattata growled. "What's that supposed to mean?" Severus kept on grinning. "Slughorn, my brother, perhaps you should make like a Zubat and borrow my perch." Borrow his perch? Slughorn didn't get it. He glanced back up at the spot on the ceiling where Severus previously hung. Then it hit him. He understood Severus's plan. And boy, it was brilliant. "You got it, brother," Slughorn yelled. He reached his vines through the netting, took hold of the stalactite, and pulled himself out of the Rocket Man's grip. He was suspended in the air. "Get back here!" the Rattata called. "You have more pressing matters to attend to," said Severus calmly. "Such as how you'll deal with the rock slide." "The what?" Severus smiled. "This." He made one well-aimed headbutt into the wall, striking the weakest point. Slughorn heard the thud of impact and knew that had to hurt. Then the crack kept growing. And before the Rattata knew what happened, an avalanche rained down on them. Rocks and dirt and debris swept the Rattata and his trainer away. Severus flew up next to Slughorn, who was barely above the waterfall of earth. Severus watched silently as the minutes rolled by, and the rocks kept coming. He wasn't kidding. There was a huge amount of stone behind that wall. Surely the main chamber was buried by now. When it finally stopped, Severus bit through the netting. "Come on," said Severus. "There's nothing left here. Let's find our trainer." And in that moment, Slughorn not only trusted Severus, he admired him. Admired him greatly.